My name is Evelyn Reed. I am 42 years old, the vice president of operations for a Chicago-based fintech firm, and for the last 6 months, a walking cautionary tale about the collision of personal trauma and professional stoicism. They call me the Ice Queen on the analyst floors, a nickname I earned through years of unsentimental decision-making and a wardrobe consisting exclusively of severe, expensive tailoring. I wore that armor proudly because it worked. It kept people at a distance, and it kept the machinery running. But armor, I've learned, is heavy, and if you wear it long enough without taking a breath, it can crush you. Last Thursday was the company's quarterly gala. It was supposed to be a victory lap for my department's recent merger success. Instead, it felt like walking into an arena without my shield. My divorce had been finalized 3 days prior. It wasn't an amicable, conscious uncoupling. It was a scorched earth humiliation involving my husband of 15 years, his 25-year-old yoga instructor, and a forensic accountant who made sure everyone in our social circle knew the details. I was hollowed out. I was running on caffeine, adrenaline, and a profound, vibrating rage that I was terrified would shatter my professional facade. The hook that pulled me under wasn't a dramatic event. It was a slow, insidious drowning in top-shelf gin. I started drinking the moment I stepped into the ballroom to numb the sympathetic glances from colleagues who had read the gossip columns. By the time I retreated to the coat room to escape the suffocating noise, the room was already tilting dangerously on its axis. I remember leaning against the wall of coats, the wool and cashmere muffling the sounds of the party outside, trying to locate my center of gravity. I closed my eyes for just a second and the floor rushed up to meet me. I didn't hit the ground, though. I hit something solid, warm, and smelling faintly of clean laundry detergent, a stark contrast to the heavy, musky colognes of the C-suite executives I'd been dodging all night. The sensory details of those next few minutes are blurred, slipping through my memory like water. I remember the mortifying sensation of my own dead weight being supported by someone else. I remember the humiliating intimacy of my face pressed against a man's chest, my expensive silk wrap dress twisted uncomfortably around my legs. I couldn't focus my eyes to see who it was. Every time I tried to speak, my words slurred into incoherent mumbles. My phone, I think I managed to say, panic flaring through the haze. The gate code, I can't get in. My new apartment building was a fortress. Without my phone, I was locked out. A deep voice, calm and professional despite the absurdity of the situation, vibrated against my ear. "We need to get you a car, Ms. Reed." I knew that voice. It belonged to data architecture, Marcus something, a man whose presentations I frequently interrupted to demand the bottom line. Someone I regarded as a highly efficient cog in a machine I controlled. Now that cog was practically carrying me out a side entrance to avoid the security cameras. The reversal of power was nauseating, even in my stupor. The car ride is a black hole in my memory, save for the horrific, searing recollection of waking up just long enough to vomit violently. The shame of that moment, the loss of control, the degradation, still makes my skin burn. I don't remember arriving at a house. I don't remember walking inside. The blackout was absolute until the morning. I woke up gasping, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. The room was unfamiliar, a modest living room bathed in soft morning light. It smelled of coffee and something sweet, like vanilla. I was on a couch, under a scratchy Afghan blanket. Panic, cold and sharp, cut through the thudding hangover. I sat up and looked down at myself. My silk dress was gone. I was wearing a faded, oversized Ohio State t-shirt and a pair of men's sweatpants that were cinched tightly at the waist. For a woman in my position, waking up in a strange place with no memory of how she got there, wearing clothes that aren't her own, triggers a very specific primal terror. My mind didn't go to "someone helped me." It went immediately to the darkest possible scenario. I've spent 20 years navigating corporate environments dominated by men. I know what opportunity looks like to some people. I scrambled off the couch, my legs shaking. Where was my phone? I saw it on the coffee table, plugged into a charger that wasn't mine. It was dead. I grabbed the landline sitting on an end table, my breath coming in short, shallow, ragged gasps. I needed the police. I needed to get out. I needed to destroy whoever had done this to me before they could destroy me. I was dialing 911 when a movement in the hallway froze me. A man stood there. It was Marcus Thorne. He looked exhausted. His dress shirt from the night before was rumpled, his eyes shadowed with fatigue. He was standing next to a rolled-up blanket on the hardwood floor in the hallway, looking at me with wariness. "Where am I?" I demanded, my voice cracking, trying to channel my boardroom authority and failing miserably. What did you do? He held up his hands, palms out. Evelyn, stop. You're safe, you were sick. Why am I wearing your clothes? I spat the words at him, clutching the phone receiver like a weapon. The accusation hung heavy in the air between us. I watched his jaw tighten. He knew exactly what I was implying, and I saw the flicker of fear in his eyes. Not fear of me, but fear of what my accusation could do to a black man in his position. Your dress was ruined in the car, he said, his voice strained. I couldn't leave you like that. I slept here in the hall. Nothing happened. Liars say nothing happened, I countered, my panic overriding reason. I'm calling the police. That was the precipice. I was about to make a call that would irrevocably alter, perhaps ruin, this man's life based on fear and a lack of memory. Then, a small door down the hallway creaked open. A little girl, maybe 6 years old, shuffled out, rubbing sleep from her eyes. She was wearing polka dot pajamas and her hair was a riot of curls. She looked from Marcus to me, her expression entirely unbothered by the thick tension in the room. Daddy? She said, her voice tiny in the quiet house. My heart stopped. Daddy. Marcus let out a breath he seemed to have been holding for hours. Morning, Maya Bug. Go back to bed for a minute, okay? But Maya was already fully awake, her attention fixed on me. She walked right past her father into the living room, tilting her head to study the strange woman clutching their telephone. You're wearing Daddy's painting shirt, she observed matter-of-factly. I slowly lowered the phone from my ear. The adrenaline crashed out of my system, leaving me weak. I looked at the child, then at the modest duplex around me, the toys, the school photos on the fridge visible in the kitchen, the blanket on the hard floor where Marcus had slept to keep a respectful distance. Did you make my daddy miss the recital? Maya asked, her tone innocent, not accusing, which somehow made it worse. I looked at Marcus. Recital? My voice was a whisper. He rubbed the back of his neck, looking away. Maya had her spring ballet recital last night. I was on my way when I found you. The silence that fell over the room was suffocating. The pieces slammed together in my mind, forming a picture so starkly different from my panicked assumptions that I felt physically ill. He hadn't taken advantage of me. He had sacrificed a cornerstone memory with his daughter to ensure my safety when I was too drunk to even tell him my address. He had brought me into his home, near his child, exposed himself to insane professional horror stories, and slept on the floor, and I had almost called the cops on him. The shame was a physical weight, heavier than the hangover, heavier than the divorce. I sank back onto the couch, burying my face in my hands. The Ice Queen facade completely shattered. I started to cry, ugly, silent tears of profound humiliation. Oh my God, I mumbled into my hands. Marcus, I don't even have the words. I felt the couch dip slightly as Maya sat next to me. A small hand patted my shoulder. It's okay, she said, offering comfort to the stranger who had ruined her evening. Mrs. Davison took a video. Daddy says we can watch it with pancakes. You should stay for pancakes. Daddy makes the best ones. I looked up, wiping my wet face with the sleeve of Marcus's Ohio State shirt. Marcus was watching me, the wariness gone, replaced by a weary relief. I didn't stay for pancakes. I couldn't. I didn't deserve them. Marcus called me an Uber once my phone had enough charge. I left his house wearing his sweatpants, carrying my ruined vomit-covered $1,000 dress in a plastic grocery bag. I have never felt less like a vice president, and more like a flawed, broken human being in my entire life. I expected HR to be waiting for me on Monday. I expected Marcus to leverage the situation. He did neither. He never spoke a word of it to anyone. But everything changed. Not externally. I'm still demanding. I still push hard for results. But internally, the ice has thawed. When Marcus speaks in meetings now, I don't just hear data points. I hear the man who missed his daughter's ballet recital to save his boss from herself. I see the humanity I had spent so long trying to ignore in my staff. I learned that the strongest armor isn't made of indifference or expensive suits. Sometimes it's made of a faded t-shirt loaned to a stranger, and the quiet courage to do the decent thing even when it costs you something precious.